So welcome, Suzy, to Cha with Laura and Leah.
Yay.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Doggy needs to go.
So, okay, where should we start? Should we start with how you got into Tatreez?
Yeah.
And fashion?
Yeah, so as a child, I would always hide in my mom's room and play with her clothes and play dress up because I just had this, like, I don't know, this urge and desire to reinvent myself or to express myself through what I was wearing. And so that's where it all began, the whole fashion and creative aspect of, like, my path. And then, so many things happened since then. Then I went to high school, started thrift shopping.
Where were you, by the way? Where was this?
I was in California, in the Bay Area.
Oh, I'm from the Bay Area.
Is that where you're born?
Yeah, Bay Area. Yep.
Right. Thrifting, I feel like, is big.
It's very big there.
But when I was thrifting, and I'm not going to age myself, it wasn't like a trendy thing to do.
Sure,
I was like 16, like wearing bell bottoms and like all these like colorful, like patterned clothing, like dresses and, you know, things from the 60s and 70s. And I would get made fun of at school a lot, but I didn't care because I had Bjork to guide me. She was like my inspiration. She made me feel okay about being different and just like embracing my own like unique style and way of expression. I used to wear gems on my face and all sorts of, I had piercings, purple hair and all this stuff. So I was just, I don't know, I think I was always looking for a way to like express myself and find my identity because I never really felt like I fit in, and I always felt like there was like, you know, a creative aspect. I loved art, like that was always my favorite class. But yeah, so after high school I knew I wanted to be a designer. I'm like, okay, well, I love how I put things together. By the way, I was voted best dressed after all the teasing.
Yeah,
after
at least they came around.
After crying at school and like feeling
just
horrible.
jealous.
And then they were starting to dress like me, and I was like, oh my God, not to like, you know, boast about myself, but you know, it sucks that you have to go through all that torture when people are uncomfortable with something that's different.
Right.
And then they're like, oh, that's actually kind of cool. Let me do that too, you know? And so I went to the Academy of Art and studied fashion and textile design. So I love textiles. And I graduated with honors. I got a scholarship to study in Paris. And I also won a competition, which was all inspired by Palestine and juxtaposed with Andy Warhol in the 60s and 70s in like vibrant colors. So I got to share my story about Palestine in Italy. I was the only American student that made it through to this competition.
It's amazing.
And there was like 25 students from around the world that made it.
How was it received by people that like came
and listened? And not really that great. I mean, no one was interested. It's almost like I was speaking to a void. But I made it to this competition, and I'm like, why did you choose me if you don't really want to hear my story? I mean, I just didn't feel any warmth or acceptance, you know? But either way, I was still able to tell my story and to people from around the world, all at, you know, sitting together in the same room. So that was great. I didn't win, but just being there was a winning moment. Because I was studying, like, you know, screen printing and all applied textiles. And I just failed to look at my own, like, culture, you know? And so I reached out to UNRWA in Gaza, actually, in 2014. And this is before me and my mom went to Palestine. And this is like 6 months prior. And I was just like, I wonder if I can like buy some pieces handmade in Gaza and support these women because it supports their livelihoods. And it was kind of just like this like shot in the dark. Like, is this going to even happen? Am I going to be able to meet with them? And we get there 6 months later. I email Hind from UNRWA. And she was the woman that I met, and she trains all these women. And now just to think about it, I'm like, that place is not there anymore.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I'm scared to think of. I've emailed and gotten weird like responses back from the email, like this email's not in something.
Was this actually in Gaza?
Yeah, I didn't go to Gaza, but she had a 2-hour window to
Come out and meet you?
to take the UNRWA. Yeah, it's like a UNRWA like van or something.
Yeah.
And they met me in Ramallah at my cousin's house. Me and my mom were waiting for her, and she brought all the pieces that she showed me through email
Right.
that I said I wanted. So I bought all these pieces. I was shaking when she walked in because it was just such a surreal moment, and I was like, wow, like the woman that is training, like, what? You're here? Like,
Yeah.
you're here? Like, it was... I still remember that feeling, and that was like 11 years ago.
And you had like 2 hours to like connect, and then she had to like race back.
Yeah.
Like, what is that, right?
Exactly.
That's like so unjust. Just
I know.
that her movements are controlled like that. And for what reason? Right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, we know the reason being occupation, but like she
Right.
didn't do anything, right? She's just trying to live.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was just like gut wrenching, like just to think of her.
She must have felt so moved. Must have been so meaningful that you reached out and that you were buying materials from literally the land, right?
Yeah.
From this place that nobody else can access, and like pulling it out to the outside world.
Yeah. I was just looking at old emails with her, and I was telling her about this exhibit that the work of her women was exhibited at.
Right.
I was a part of, this was like the launching pad of my diving deeper into Palestinian embroidery and really like showcasing it and connecting to the Western world with Palestinian embroidery. I was able to exhibit at this, at the UN here in 2016 for a whole month. It was part of this whole exhibit that Hanan Munayed, who's a curator, author, and Palestinian embroidery historian, I was able to meet her through working at a fashion house, met someone, went to her home in New Jersey, and purchased all of these old, tattered, like, scraps of embroidery from, like, the 50s and 60s. Wow. And I was just in awe being at her house. So all this is going to tie together in a minute. But so I was there. I got the pieces from her. She said, listen, I'm having an exhibit in a few months. If you can create a modern day gown using these scraps, I'm going to present it to the UN panel, and they'll judge to see if we'll let you have it on exhibit.
Wow.
And I was like, yes, of course. And so I did. I created the gown, ended up being approved, was in the exhibit. My family flew in, like my mom and my brothers came for the opening night. So it was a really big moment. And also two scarves, or not scarves, shawls, and one like poncho, embroidered poncho, was presented at the exhibit, and this was the handwork of the people in Gaza. So I emailed Hind in Gaza, and I was like, hey, I just want to let you know that your work is up. And she was like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. Like, you know, that you're giving our people a place to show our work. And she was so happy about that. But yeah, I can
So
like
beautiful.
go on and on about
And
that.
that wasn't that long ago.
That was 2016.
Yeah.
Yeah, not that long
And then now
ago.
in 2021, it's a registered heritage, cultural heritage, right? Tatreez?
Yes, it is. And I missed this meeting Wafat. You know Wafat with Tatreez and tea?
I saw her. I saw
follow
her
her.
account.
Yeah.
From your account. Yeah.
So I met her just at like a month or two before the exhibit, and it was her first lecture ever at the Brooklyn Library with her mom. Mm-hmm. And her mom actually taught her how to embroider. Mm-hmm. And so Wafat is a incredible like Tatreez historian. She's taught many classes. She's been working at the Met, and she has the keys to the castle to look at all of the oldest embroideries from Palestine. And and she's also working at another museum, the Palestine Museum. Anyway, so now we're like really good friends, and she's always been my mentor, but Tatreez sister and like good friend now.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I invited her. She came to the opening night of that exhibit, and ever since we've been like walking this parallel kind of line where like we're threaded together forever, you know? Literally, yeah.
Because Tatreez means embroidery in Arabic.
Yes.
And before the Nakba, it was a way to show a woman's like marital status and her social status. From what I understand about the history.
Yeah.
Like the different motifs and colors. And each area of Palestine is also like different embroidery, right?
Yes. So that there are like some very, I guess I would say, motifs that cross over to different villages, because women would also get together in circles and share their motifs amongst each other. So it's kind of not super accurate to say this motif is only from Bethlehem and this motif is only from Ramallah, which I've learned also from Wafat. But like styles are more unique to each area. The way women wore their thobes and how they layered things and belted things, you know, that was more like unique to each village. But as going back to like marriage, yeah, a lot of widows would embroider blue, and that means like I'm not available or I'm mourning, you know. And then, you know, more like vibrant colors or like I'm available, like lighter colors, you know. But you can see the history in just one dress, because you'll see like a woman go from being a bride or being available to her being a widow, to her maybe passing it on to someone else, like in her family, and then they also change the embroidery or adjust the silhouette to fit them a certain way. If you're pregnant, you'll like make a seam here so you can breastfeed, or you know, it's really interesting that one dress can shift and change in so many different ways.
It's so opposite to fast fashion of
Exactly.
today. Like I'm just like listening to this, I'm like, fast fashion, which dictates so much today, it doesn't operate like that, right?
Yeah.
It's like, it's going to fall apart after 5 wears, just throw it away and buy something new.
Right.
So then do you have one thobe and you like alter it based on your lifespan?
I think, you know, depending on how much money people earn, you know, a lot of people, I mean, especially like during, you know, the Nakba and like the Intifada, like, I don't know, the times of like, you know, occupation and oppression, and you just don't have the accessibility to make, it's expensive to buy threads and fabric for some people. So it depends on what is accessible to them, and a lot of times they would only have 1 or 2 dresses, you know. So yeah, you would see the like the way that this dress would morph into different aspects of their life throughout their journey.
Yeah, because I read that. So this was like pre-colonization. The thobe was, you know, showing the status and the marital status of a woman, and then during the Nakba is kind of where there were scarce materials, so they became more like plain, and then it was the Intifada where the liberation symbols started showing up.
Yep.
So now you don't actually do the embroidering yourself, right?
No. So
that happens in Palestine.
Yes. So my whole thing was to give new life to these old pieces that were forgotten, right?
Yeah.
Like scraps of fabric would be in a closet or thrown out. I mean, there's stories of people finding things in dumpsters, like Palestinian dresses in dumpsters. Wow. And also, going back to Wafat, she's actually rescued a lot of dresses, like literally rescued, because There's been like a lot of Americans that have acquired Palestinian dresses because some Palestinians throughout history had been so desperate to sell their like wedding gowns basically for $5 just so they could feed their families. And so these like American people are like that acquired these dresses are like, hey, and they'll contact Wafat, like, I have this dress, and they'll hand it over to her because she's, you know, kind of, she's really like, you know, doing the work and keeping the stories alive and sharing our culture and studying the dresses, and
she's like archiving them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly that. I trust her with, you know, being the steward of our embroidery.
So you're kind of that's such a not a good word to describe. You're repurposing something that's old and making new clothing with it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also kind of like making it available for men to wear or for using it in a new way,
like
that
Leah's sweatshirt.
Yeah, like Leah's sweatshirt. And this was hand embroidered by my team in Janine, actually.
So beautiful.
Yeah, who my heart is with as well. And it's been a very I don't even know how to describe, just so heartbreaking, you know, because I speak to them often. And they send me videos of what's happening and also like voice notes of the sound of the drones, and they still want to work. They're like, can you please?
Yeah.
Because I'm ashamed because I feel so privileged to be here asking them to embroider for me. And they're like, no, please, we need the works, you know, and thank you for sharing what we do. And everyone, you know, like I'm giving them a platform in a way. And I just feel so honored that they'll do the work, that I get to share it. But they're also thankful that they get to take their minds off of what's happening, because they say that it helps them kind of cope with what's going on. It's like a therapeutic kind of ritual, you know.
Yeah, when it gives them a purpose, and we all need that, right? And I think we're at this moment of, okay, we've done so much work in witnessing, in trying to speak up and trying to educate ourselves and others, and there's been this depletion from that when it comes to like our own joy or our own humanity. And I think, you know, we're really digging into, okay, what does it mean to be in community with each other? And there is that, like, there's that guilt, that shame of like, we have no reason to feel bad about anything right now, right? Because we're not being bombed or genocided in this moment.
Right.
Like, not that I sincerely believe that nobody is free, right? If anybody is not free, none of us are. But in this moment, we are not the most oppressed. So it's like a weird thing to hold, to be like, can I like ask people to do this for me? Can I come out and want to sell things or tell my story and do things? But I think like the thing we're learning is we have to.
Because it's their form of resistance. It's like they're trying to erase the culture, right? Because Tatreez is like 3,000 years old. And so it's like their form of being like, you cannot erase us, bitch.
I mean, it's
exactly.
We're going to keep doing this.
Yeah, for sure. I was just at a lecture, actually, with Wafat. It was her lecture at the Student Visual Art Center. I think, is that what it's called? Anyway, it was in the like a spiritual experience. It was just, the whole room was like this, like just listening to her, and it was just such a beautiful experience. But she was talking about how when any indigenous people are extracted from the land, it kind of, you know, she brought that into how our bodies are an extension of the land. So we're kind of wearing the land on us and so we're kind of resisting in that way. That's like a form of resistance, is that we're wearing the motifs that symbolize the land, you know. And it was just such a interesting reminder to know that.
And sometimes literally came from the land.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
Right?
Like the actual materials
Yeah.
came from the land. Yeah. Yeah.
That's
So can a non-Palestinian person wear a thobe? Or is that a cultural appropriation?
a good question.
I feel that if they respect the culture and if they are fighting for a free Palestine, we'd be honored for you to.
Really?
Yeah.
Like if I showed up and I wore one, would you be like, Laura?
No, I would.
It's a costume.
I would no. As long it's all about respect, right? Like knowing the history and respecting the people that, that goes for any culture, right? Like if you really respect the culture and you know the history and you inform yourself and you educate yourself on what you're wearing and you wear it with pride and you're not mocking, right?
Or trying to capitalize on it.
Or trying to capitalize on it.
Like, ooh, I'm going to sell this to all, that's like, there are these things, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But yeah, I think it's a respect thing, and if you want the liberation for Palestinians and you actively talk about it and fight for it, then wear it and talk about it. It's also like a bridge to speak about what's happening, because people are always asking me, ooh, what is that?
Right.
And there's been so many people that have ordered from me that didn't know about Palestine.
Right.
And they're like, thank you so much. I had no idea this has been going on. Yeah. And so that for me is one of the most rewarding things.
This is where art is so incredible, right? Because it's like...
And fashion could be a liberatory practice.
Yeah. Whereas if you come in and go, let me talk to you about geopolitics, people are like, bye.
Exactly.
But when they're like, oh, and they even open that conversation because they admire something that you are wearing or showcasing. And what a beautiful entry into something that's so important to talk about.
Yeah.
Do you ever, is it typically a good response, or do you sometimes see people like go, oh, she said Palestine?
No, actually, it's always been... I guess I've had a few people that have DM'd me and they've been nasty, but it's more of a positive response. I feel that, people are more like, oh, thank you so much. I had no idea. Or, I've cried sometimes because people are really heartfelt. Like it's coming from a genuine place, and they're like, thank you for sharing this and for the work that you're doing. And I'm like, but this is what I have to do. It's my mission. It just feels second nature, right? It feels like I was put here to do this. There's no question in my mind.
Yeah.
And did your grandmother or grandmothers before you do Tatreez?
Yes, my grandmother did. My aunts do. My mom didn't really do much of it. She did a lot of knitting and crocheting, though. But yeah, my aunt made me a dress that took her a couple of years to make, and because she did it in steps, because she had a job,
right? But still,
it's so beautiful, and I don't know how she knew my measurements.
When I was reading a blog about Tatreez, the key word said resilience, patience, and I'm like, do all Palestinians have to do is that annoying to you?
What, the patience part?
Because it's sometimes you don't want to be patient. Sometimes it's when is it going to be our turn? I don't want to be resilient. I just want to be free. Do you get annoyed by those words sometimes?
It's kind of, I see what you're saying. I'm
just projecting.
No, it is. It's annoying that it's expected of us that we have to be resilient and we have to be patient, but that's been our survival mechanism. That's how we've been surviving, So it's just what it is. It's how we're wired at this point.
Yeah.
But I look forward to a day where we're free and we don't have to always be so resilient and resourceful and patient, and that we can enjoy our lives and move forward freely and be hopeful about things.
Yeah.
Do you feel we're closer to that now than 10 years ago, or when you were a child, whenever you first started understanding what it meant to be Palestinian?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, as dark and ugly as things are right now, I feel that things have to get really shitty and really horrible and just to the point where it's just like pure evil for things to get better. You know, it's like the phoenix rising from the ashes. Like, I mean, I feel like I'm walking my own fire right now, my own personal fire. And then at the same time, I feel like I'm rising above all of it. So I feel that the Palestinian people have definitely taught the world about how it is to persevere and rise above all of the unthinkable things that have been happening.
And have faith.
Yeah, and they've given me hope. Mm-hmm. They give me hope and strength. I mean, I know a lot of people have felt that and been affected by their resilience, right, and their patience, but their faith. You're right. Their faith is something unmatchable. Like, I've never seen anything like that before.
Especially in the U.S. and the West in general. It's like faith isn't really a thing that is in the collective.
Yeah, it's different, right?
It's different.
It's almost like a corporation or like a company.
It is.
Like church, you know?
Yeah.
It's not coming from this like deep, heartfelt, like
soul tie.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like I always think that people may enter those spaces with that intention, with that earnestness, with that like desire for that faith to explore that. And then I think it's manipulated.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like just the way our religious structures are here.
It's all the money. Like, it's all about making money.
Yeah, and power, right? Yeah. Like, and being like, I will be in between you and God. And like, then what is that ultimately nurturing? It's not. I feel like churches, or at least my personal experience with churches, they're not really invested in my relationship with God or with the divine, like whatever language we want to use. And I feel like what we have witnessed in Gaza and with Palestinians in general, it's like the opposite, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just like, whoa, you know? It's like, I think for those of us that have woken up, it like stirs something in us, that like seeking.
Yeah.
You know, but it's hard for us to access in our society.
Yeah. But that's key too, that people have woken up, right? There's been a huge awakening, which is hopeful. Even through the nightmare that we've been witnessing, more and more people are aware of what Palestine is and what we've been going through. Before October 7th, sadly, a lot of people didn't care or didn't know.
I literally didn't know. And I think about the fact that both my children, who are 4 and 10 years old, they know they know and say the words Palestine, Gaza, you know, they understand just that. I'm like, that's got to shift something in like just our existence. The fact that like there are many of us who are raising the younger generation without this like propagandization or the ignorance, you know, that I was raised in. It's like, that's a shift.
That is.
And it has to mean something.
It's hopeful.
But it's hard because like, we don't see the material result right now.
I know.
We don't see liberation right now. So it's like, but that's where the faith comes in. And I really try to like, I'm like, okay, you know, if like these children in Gaza can have that faith, like I can have that faith.
Yeah.
Or like ask for it. Like,
that's why I've reframed it from like the Palestinian suffering and genocide to their resistance.
Yes.
They were able to resist $1 billion back colonizer. Like, think about that.
Yeah.
Like, these are people that are trapped in a landmass that's like so small. They don't have a military, and they were able to like fight back. Israel. That is like, honestly, they keep getting pumped with all this money, and it's like you can't kill them. You can't beat them. And so that to me is kind of embarrassing for Western Empire. And it's more about like the Palestinian resistance and centering them versus like, the suffering of, obviously it's happening, right? But it's more like centering their victory.
And also the will to live and the will to create, you know, like the poetry that comes out of there and just everything. It's like, it's just humanizing and normalizing Palestinian existence, I think, is just huge. And you do that, like, not just through who you are, but also like through your work. And it's amazing.
Thank you. I mean, I feel, you know, like most Palestinians in diaspora, that we don't feel like we do enough, you know? And so I feel like even if it's a small thing that I'm doing, you know, I'm proud of it. But yeah, it never feels like you're doing enough, because I just feel like I have so many privileges by being here and having my safety and whatever freedom that, you know, I have here. Food and water and...
Oh my God, just water, yeah.
Water.
Just like when you run the tap, you're like, oh.
A shower, like all those things, you know, we tend to feel guilty for having. Yeah. But at the same time, we you know, if we're going to let that tear us down here... Yeah, then the occupier has occupied us already here as well. So fuck that.
Yeah, fuck that.
Yeah. And even the people like my family in Palestine and the women that work with me in Jenin, they're like, what? Don't cry. No.
Every Palestinian says that to me.
Yeah.
Whenever I cry in front of them, they're like, don't cry.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but
I know. I'm like a bleeding
such
heart.
Yeah, I'm such a crier. I mean, clearly, because when we first met, we were crying.
Yeah.
But is that like bypassing?
You know, I've had this like kind of issue whenever I have visited Palestine. Not issue, but curiosity. Like, why is it that I'm so angry and they're just like, oh, Addy. Addy means like it's like normal. This is normal. Like they're just succumb to, like, in a way I feel like maybe it's just the way that they have to survive and get through each day, you know. And I don't know how I would be if I lived there, you know. So I can't judge, but I do know that I am just so like infuriated whenever I have to go through a checkpoint and see my aunt speak in Hebrew to the person, you know, the 20-year-old. Exactly. Yes, I wish. But
I'm like, haram.
I know.
I'm like, I cannot believe this.
Yeah.
In my own land.
It's, and my family has to wait, you know, sometimes 2 hours just to get through the checkpoint. So they have to wake up extra early to go to work every day because they don't know what they're going to get. They can have a soldier that's
so insane.
Yeah, it's like I just want to like tear my hair out.
Do they like want to leave? Do they want to like be like, I can't live with this occupation anymore. I want to find a way to leave?
Never.
They're like, we will not leave. You can do to us whatever you want. We're staying.
Well, yeah, I mean, you see the people going back to the north in Gaza.
Yeah.
They went back to nothing, to rubble, right?
Rubble. Yeah.
But they're so like intertwined with their land. They're rooted so deeply that nothing will make them want to leave. My mom was there during October 7th. She was in Palestine in the West Bank. She didn't want to leave. I called her every day. She didn't want to leave because that's her roots. That's her land. You know, that's like all of her sisters and brothers still live there. All of her, you know, nieces and nephews still live there. Like, that's where she grew up. That's where she was born.
Was she the only one in her family, like amongst her siblings, that left?
To the States?
To the States, yeah.
Yes. Okay. So... And we have a house there that's unoccupied, well, not occupied.
Like physically your family is living there.
Yeah, but we don't know what's going to happen. It's in the West Bank, and that's the house that she grew up in.
And would you go and stay there sometimes? When you went back to visit? Was it easy for you to get in?
Oh, gosh.
You have to fly to Tel Aviv always?
Yes, yeah. It's... the most anxiety-producing situation. because
and you can't because you're American.
U.S. American. You have a U.S. passport.
Yes, but your passport doesn't mean shit because they know you're Palestinian.
Yeah, of course. Like they know your name.
And that overrides being American.
But being American is like the only way you can actually have a chance of getting in, though, right? Or like just having a foreign passport.
Yeah. Yes, but the moment you get there, they ask you a million questions. And the last time I went, they only asked me a couple questions, and then they let me go. And I was like, what? This is different. But the time prior to that, I went. They interviewed me. They interrogated me for 4 hours.
Are you serious?
And then
are you by yourself at that point, or do they?
There's like a holding cage, not cage, but like a room, and everyone is miserable. Everyone has like their heads in their hands. My mom's sitting next to me praying, and it's like a movie. It's like you feel like you're going through something that is just so like. It's traumatic because you don't know what's going to happen.
Do some people just get sent back? Like they'll be like, you can't come in, and you have to get on the next flight out of here?
Well, there's like an attached jail or some kind of like area where if they put you back on the airplane, that you have to stay in until they get your next flight to go back to wherever you came from.
But that you've luckily always gotten through?
I've always gotten through. But my brother was interrogated for 8 hours.
Because they're more harsh with men, right?
Yeah. Yeah. They knew all of my family members' names. They
so creepy.
Asked 3 different people interrogated me, and they all asked me the same questions.
So what are they trying to like trap you in a lie or something?
Yeah, like what are you doing here? Where are you staying? Who is your mom? Who's your dad? And like, mind you, my dad had passed away. So I'm like, I have to talk about that right now. And it doesn't matter. I'm like, I have to pee. They're like, you can wait. Like, it's just.
And you're speaking in English?
Yeah. I mean, I think that they just want to intimidate you to the point of you not wanting to
come back. They just
That's the point.
Right.
Yeah, they do that to every Palestinian. Or any humanitarian too. Like you can be any ethnicity going to Palestine, and if you're for Palestinian rights, if you're a teacher, if you're whatever there to help, they will deter you in however way they can or intimidate you.
It's so psychotic.
It is.
I mean, it is a psychotic.
Yeah,
I don't even know what to call
whatever
them.
it is.
Then
Yeah.
How do you get from once they let you go? How do you get from there to the West Bank? Like,
you have to have. Well, I've always been picked up by my aunt, who had to like circle for hours and hours and
at the Tel Aviv airport. So they're allowed to come in.
There's only one airport. Yeah.
So they're allowed to come in to pick people up.
Yeah. Well, we have to kind of like. It's not a convenient pickup spot. We have to like find her and call her and where are you and
That's so insane.
Yeah, it's a very, very stressful situation traveling there. And the last time I traveled there, I went alone to surprise my mom in 2019.
So your mom was living back there,
she's been trying to get her like Hawiya, which is like her like residency, and they, of course. She doesn't have like a citizenship there right now because she has to apply for it, and then she has to live there for 2 years straight without leaving, and like
really
you have to jump through hoops
because there's no right of return for Palestinians. So like
exactly,
it's hard for them to go back once they leave.
Yeah, I mean, she can go back to visit for 3 months at a time, but she wants to be able to like stay there for a long time if she wanted to, and. Like
you want freedom of movement too, right?
Yeah.
You want to be able to be there, but then be able to go see your daughter in the U.S. if you need to.
Exactly, but they want to make every Palestinian's life as difficult as possible.
So insane.
No matter where you live,
It's like colonization 101.
Well, it's like
what happened with Korea.
Yeah, with Korea, my grandparents could speak Japanese.
Our grandparents had Japanese names. They had to speak Japanese. They had to let go of their Korean identity. They couldn't eat their own food. It's colonization 101. They try to erase you to the point where you don't even like want to be your like ethnicity,
Yeah. I mean, they appropriate our clothing and say it's theirs.
Is there like an Israeli Tatreez?
No.
I feel like they haven't touched that yet, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Like it's going to take too long. They don't have patience.
They love our food, and they appropriate our falafel and
your hummus.
the hummus and all the things.
Yeah.
And then they also appropriate our music, and they dance.
And they say yalla.
They love our music. They do. They use our slang words.
Yeah, it's
exactly.
weird. It's creepy.
So that's the appropriation that we despise. Like,
isn't it creepy though? It's like you kind of hate us, but you're kind of obsessed with us.
yeah.
It's like psychotic, like you said.
It is. It's like what are those people that like can't get enough of like a peeping tom? Or, I don't know.
Yeah.
I
something
think when you
weird.
so if you've been propagandized to hate an entire people, like that Zionism, that's like the crux of Zionism. But then you also have your own eyes and your own brain and your own taste buds, and you're like, wait, actually, that's cool. They're cool. There's like a weird disconnect that must happen in your brain, which kind of makes sense that they would then try to copy that.
Yeah.
To steal that. Also, they're just stealing constantly. Like, you steal the land, like, why not also steal things of the culture?
Right.
So, like, in a weird way, it makes sense.
Because it is white supremacy. And white
we know what white supremacy
steals
does.
And appropriates culture.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
It is the same
So,
thing.
like, they don't have their own culture because they were also exterminated by other people. It's like this endless cycle,
Yeah.
And we were actually talking about that at Leah's dinner. It's like, at what point do you need to, like, self-reflect that you are now the abuser? Because like the Holocaust happened, we're not denying that.
Yeah, of
but
course.
then now they are the ones that are murdering and like massive amounts of people. So it's like, when does that cycle end?
Yeah, I wonder because, just like abusive parents, right? A lot of the times they were abused, but then like, for instance, like I come from an abusive upbringing, but if I were to have children, I would do the total opposite, because I've never really talked about it, but my dad was really abusive, but his dad was extremely abusive. So that was like the norm. And then seeking therapy is like not even like something that would ever like come up. Like, you'd have to be like a psycho to go to therapy, or seen as somebody who's just like not, all together, or that there's something wrong with you to go to therapy. But here, everyone needs therapy, right? I mean, and it's so accepted. It's just not a part of the culture. It's, it's definitely come a long way now, but I wonder where that cycle stops, because the abuse sometimes abuse, and then the going from generation to generation, there comes a point where the person's like, I would never do that to my kid.
I always ask
wonder how that shifts.
I have an abusive like history too, and so I think so much about like the cycles and cycle breakers. And I'm like committed to being a cycle breaker.
Me too.
With, and with my children, but it's hard because like that abuse is the blueprint that you have.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I'll like shout like my mom did, and I'm like, oh, whoa. It's like, it's not a conscious decision.
Yeah.
It's like something's triggered, and my brain is like, oh, I know what this situation calls for, because it's like been on the receiving end of that. It's like literally implanted.
Right.
And so if you don't apply your conscious choice to that moment, then you're just going to robotically repeat that. And but I don't know what it is that I would ask my therapist all the time. I'm like, why do some people who are abused repeat, and some of us want to break the cycle? Like, he never had a no. I've asked many people, and like, there's no like clean
I feel
answer.
like we choose that.
Yeah.
We choose that as souls. And
But like, what gives you the capacity to choose as in human form?
Because I feel like my soul wanted to come back here.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm taking this to a very spiritual level.
Yeah.
Like, I am my ancestors. Like, my soul was one of my ancestors, and so I decided to come back to end the cycle in this lifetime, in this form.
Yeah.
So
we're blessed in that way.
But I think it's a collective thing too, because it seems like we are all breaking the cycle of abuse within our own families and our own generations, and like, we're linking it to the history of our people being colonized, because I feel like that's the root of all violence, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Is your dad Palestinian too?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, when your parents grow up in a colonized state and they're constantly being abused. That's just how they also
Well, and then you think of the place that they chose to birth us outside of a currently colonized situation, right? Like, not USA has so many problems, but like us being born here in a place where therapy is more normalized. Yeah, it's like this weird thing. It's a duality of like the parents who grew up in difficulty under colonization, occupation, all of it, and then didn't know better than to put it on us. Actually, did have the foresight to have us be born in a different place. Where we have more access.
But I would say it was more difficult because then they were facing microaggressions and sometimes not even micro, right? Like outright racial trauma here.
Sure. Of course.
As a U.S.
But I mean, in a way,
immigrant.
they sacrificed. And so I think I could break the cycle. I made that choice. But like, I think of my parents growing up in post-war, actually never post, it's still war in Korea, but and then fleeing for a better life here, dealing with all the immigrant and racial trauma, but all of that like enabled me to be in a place where I could like identify what was happening to me was wrong, seek help, in a way that you can't in Korea or Palestine, it sounds like, so there were things that it's hard. It's not like excusing any of the abuse, but there are blessings in how and where and when we were born,
That's why I always say, you better thank me to my parents.
Right?
I'm like, after all
I'm freeing your soul.
Through, after all that you put us through, like I am freeing our ancestral lineage.
What do they say to that?
They literally are, like I told you, they don't laugh at my jokes.
They're like, you're crazy, Laura.
Literally, they just think I'm like on another planet.
It's true, though. I feel like collectively we are here to do some work that our ancestors weren't able to do,
right.
And it's not by like, what is it, like coincidence or whatever that we're here to all do light work or to be revolutionary. We're here, we have a mission, we have something to do, an important job, and breaking cycles and finding some healing in our lineage.
As a Palestinian in the diaspora, have you always felt that you had this special mission? Because every Palestinian person I've met feels that way.
For most of my life, I felt that way. Yeah, I mean, I could remember going in protest when I was a teenager and just being so emotional and so passionate. I'm not going to
I think it's that soul contract.
Yeah.
It just is. It has to be. When I try to always rationalize it to be like, how can I convince more people? Like, how can you convince your brother? Like, how can you... And I'm like, I don't think... doesn't work like that. It's like it's something deep within. Like you said, when with your PR, your publicist, and like getting ready to like speak out, and she was like, "Don't speak out," and you're like, "No, it's happening." Like, right? There was no stopping it. Like, you just like, I can't not do that.
I gave her the courtesy of telling her beforehand.
Right.
But I was like, this is happening.
Ready. Yeah. Like, so even being explicitly told to protect your own, individual career stuff, you were like, no, it's just not, it's like not possible. And I think some of us are wired that way.
Yeah.
And
she basically told me to protect myself and to just make money and donate on the side and not be as vocal. But at that point, I felt that was not honoring who I really am. Because I can't just sit by and be quiet about something that is so blatant and is hurting so many people.
Yeah.
So it's like, yes, I feel like we've all sacrificed something, Palestinians obviously more than others, but we have to sacrifice something for collective liberation. By the way, what do you feel like that means to you? Because everyone's throwing that around.
Collective liberation?
Yeah.
I mean, eggs wouldn't be $12 a dozen. We wouldn't be struggling to eat healthy, and we just wouldn't feel that there's this, challenge just to lead a healthy life and to have a house that you can afford. And and also there would just be this, I don't know, this like positivity in the air and this feeling of support and unity. I mean, I just visualize being in Palestine and having this big celebration where I see my whole family, and we're just like, it's probably going to be the happiest day ever of most of our lives, to be able to harvest olives together, to be able to have a feast, to dance, to listen to our music all together, and not be worried about having to go through a checkpoint or having some soldier point his rifle at you. Joy, laughter, dancing,
Yeah. So land back and right of return. Yeah.
Of course, 100%.
I think also for us here, I think of like eradicating houselessness.
Yes.
Like
And poverty.
everybody should have a home.
Yes.
And health, like, and people not being so stressed about healthcare, being able to not afford things. I feel like those are two material things that I feel like we should be able to see in our lifetime.
It's actually possible.
Yeah.
Because like to end the houselessness crisis is like $1 billion, and we keep sending Israel $8 billion a year. So it's like it's possible. We just don't allocate the money.
That's
to
what
those
I mean.
things.
So it's like that's something that is like, I feel like we can see that in our lifetime. Like it's like tangible changes that, I mean, the billionaires won't get behind, but the average American, I mean, I don't know the statistics, but what was it like when they were polling about keeping our taxes here for us? It was like the majority, it was bipartisan. The majority were like, can we keep our taxes here?
Yeah. Most people would want that.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm like, if we continue to rise up and support each other in this, like, I feel like, I hope, like, manifest, like, to see that in our
But
in
that's
our
what she was
lifetimes.
saying. You have to dismantle the empire, because that is what it is about, militarization,
That feels more like more difficult to see.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, of course, yes. Like, ideologically and, like, systemically speaking, yes. But, like, how will we know that's actually, like,
Exactly.
eggs not being $12?
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
How would we know if that's starting to happen?
Houseless people not on the street,
Well, because everything is interconnected.
Of course.
So, like, once occupation ends and the U.S. stops extracting from other places, then you can keep that money here to fix these problems we have. You know?
And I feel like most of the people
Inshallah.
here, inshallah. But like most of the people here, I think would want that.
Yeah, that's why we don't have representation. No taxation without representation. So we shall see. TBD.
Yeah, I mean, well, also like the natural disasters that have been happening here. I mean, they can't put out fires, but they
I
can
know.
send billions of dollars to kill people across the world.
There's these things that keep happening that like
Yes.
are like hitting that class consciousness,
Yes.
right? That are going through any sort of specific movements or issues. Like, and you're just like, oh, it's almost there. It's almost like gonna wake it. Like, and I hope we are bringing more people into that, and I feel like we're climbing up to the tipping point, and like may we see that tipping point, and people, like, we're gonna have to force our leaders to make different decisions, you know, like if you have everybody rising up in like the millions that we are,
Yeah.
there has to be, you know,
That is why Palestine has been the litmus test.
Yeah.
Because once this one like colony starts to break apart, it's like a catalyst for all other apartheids and occupations. So we wanted to end this by asking a couple of rapid fire questions.
Yeah.
Do you know your big three in astrology? I know we talked about this.
Big three, yes.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So Scorpio rising, Moon Capricorn,
Another Capricorn moon.
And then
is that 3 in a row today?
Yes.
Sun is Taurus.
Whoa, that's wild.
That's
Goosebumps.
wild.
What does that mean? What does that mean to the current moment in time?
What
Tell
is Moon
us.
Capricorn? Tell me.
So we interviewed 3 people today, and all 3 of you have Capricorn moons.
What is that?
That's a trip.
I think it's like, I think it's, I mean, if you listen to what they all said, they were very similar.
I mean, yeah.
There was like
we have
there was like a thread between
here for a reason.
we're here for a reason. Each of
Here
us
to
has a
do
gift.
work,
We
yeah.
all have a mission. We all are here in the U.S. for a reason.
So what does that match with what you know about? I don't know anything about Capricorn.
My mom
moon.
has a Capricorn moon, so
So-
I feel like it's very, because Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, which is the planet of maturation and patience and time.
Well, they're all very
right?
wise
Yeah,
and
very wise.
very like
Stoic.
Yeah.
But a little like, private. Would
Yes.
you say you're private?
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like you are.
I don't really share like
Interesting.
things.
But how
certain things
interesting
about
being
myself.
private, but being our first day of recordings
Literally.
to share. You
That's
know?
because we all know.
I know, like there's a
right?
trust.
There's
There's
a
a trust
trust
in what
there.
we're creating together. But still, that's wild. Sorry, so Capricorn moon, Scorpio
rising,
and then what's your
Taurus
sun?
sun.
Taurus.
sun.
Which
Yeah.
makes sense with like all the handiwork you do. Yeah.
You would know.
Yes. I remember I asked you that the first time I met you.
Yeah. I am so not an astrology expert. So
I love astrology so much, but
I mean,
can
I love it
never
too, but I don't-
remember what's what.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, what
It's
is
like,
it?
what's your sun, moon, and rising? What is one thing that your followers don't know about you that they would find surprising about you?
Wow. And I'm supposed to be rapid.
I mean,
It doesn't have to be that
it's okay.
rapid.
Yeah.
Oh, something that they don't know about me that they would find surprising. I'm trying to think. I used to go to raves.
I knew she was going to say that. Oh
What?
my God, that was in my mind.
I was
that's so
I was
crazy.
a
I
raver.
swear to
I was
God.
a raver back in the
Like
day.
you say
a
she told me about
Bushwick
raves.
rave kind of deal? Or?
No, I was in California at the
like
time.
California.
Like electronic music
Like
rave.
EDM?
Yeah.
But better because that was like when raves were actually real
Underground.
like underground.
Yeah. Oh my
You'd have to
God.
go to a point where you would like get the directions from like a donut shop or something, and then you have to like drive 3 hours to get there. And it was just like, and then maybe you'd have to do another stop to like make sure that that's the right address. So it was like this treasure hunt to get there.
Yeah.
And you would be there until 6 a.m.
Yeah.
And you would come back home and you'd be elated. And it was just amazing.
I love it.
6 a.m.
I love
Yeah. And
Wow.
like, I was sober too, by the way. Like the music was just like, I don't know, it took me on a journey and I found community. And I found people like my second family at raves, actually. I mean, we just, found each other through music and dance. And a lot of us were, we had our own wounds and we comforted each other. And it was just a beautiful time. Yeah.
Wow, raves. I had no idea.
I know I was a wild one.
I mean, you did say you grew up in the Bay and you went thrifting, and so
Yeah.
I guess it's like
you
all
I was into
Yeah.
Bjork. That's actually,
Bjork.
that's when I discovered her. I was 16 and I was like, ooh, like, and then I started going to raves and getting more into music and dance.
Another question we have is, what are your red flags? I don't know if we've asked that. I
Oh,
feel
we
like,
haven't.
Oh,
Yeah.
red
what are your
flags,
red
like
flags?
with people?
Yeah. Yeah.
Gaslighting, being gaslit, like narcissistic behavior, people that don't listen and can't wait till you're done talking and talk over you.
Yeah.
People that are not genuine.
Do you feel you can sense all these things better? Like,
Yeah, I feel like my intuition is pretty spot on. Sometimes I need to listen to it a little bit
Right.
more because I know it's there because I can feel it in my body.
maybe this, I think you say, it feels uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So you're not being like, that person is horrible and untrustworthy, but you're like, it feels uncomfortable.
your body is rejecting something, which is what I was saying to you.
Yeah.
I feel like you know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you were
know?
saying that.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
hard also, like if these are people that you assume certain good things about, and then your body's uncomfortable. There's like that.
It's confusing.
Yeah, it's confusing, right?
But then you're gaslighting yourself.
That sucks. I know. Yeah. I mean, I really value authentic people and people that speak their truth, unapologetically, and don't try and persuade people, and
you can feel that. I think all of us have that.
Yeah.
Like our body telling us that.
Yeah.
But we're not really schooled or encouraged to figure out what that is. I mean, I'm trying to do that for my kids, but I wasn't.
Yeah.
But finding it is so key.
But I feel like I am very intuitive, but I let my mind override a lot because I was like, oh, but they're in liberation work.
Right.
They're activists. And so I let my mind take over and overrode a lot of my body feelings.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, oh, not everybody is actually in it for the right reasons.
Yeah.
Because not everybody is authentic like that. So
Yeah, and I feel like your body is more wise, than your mind.
Yeah.
Because your body
I break out in a rash.
Oh, yeah. Well, and the mind too is like, the job of the mind is to rationalize. That's like what you're supposed to use your mind for. The job of the ego is to go for the thing that you really desire. And those are all fine, but we can't let them always be in the driver's seat, I think is the thing, right?
Balance.
Yeah, you gotta balance it. And the problem is the body and that intuition, we just rarely let it drive. We as a society, we especially in the West.
Yeah.
So it's not the mind is great at solving problems or trying to be wait, how am I going to map out from this to there? But maybe when it's something to do with human relationships and, who you're letting into your life in a deep way,
that's
the mind can rationalize anything. Be oh, they say they're for liberation. Oh, they have a watermelon in the bio. Oh, that must mean safe. But that's not a decision to make through the brain like that, I think. So listening to the body. Well, you had a couple more questions, right? We already know. We're one of them is do you believe in God? But we know.
Yeah. Yes.
We talked about that a bit.
I definitely believe in God, but I feel that God has different, also has different words for some people.
Yeah.
Like the divine, the universe. And I respect everyone's belief in what that word is or what their relationship is with that. But also I feel that God is within us as well.
Yeah.
Or goddess.
Yes, or goddess.
Goddess.
Yeah.
I guess one last question is when we met, I forget, last year, you were expressing how difficult it is to be a creative person and work within capitalism, So if there was no such thing as capitalism or colonialism, what would you be doing? Would you still be doing Tatreez? Because it is a form of resistance towards colonization,
Yeah. I would always be doing some type of art that had to do with Palestine, for sure. And I just feel, for me, Tatreez is more like the most beautiful history books you could ever imagine. Because there's stories in every dress. And it's our way of preserving our identity and to prove that we've existed and that we still do. So I would choose Tatreez.
You would still do that?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being on Cha.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for the Cha. We say Shay.
Yeah, it's all because we're all connected.
We are all connected.
Asian.
Yeah, that's right. We are all Asian. Stop trying to divide us.
Stop.